boys and girls. We think just about everybody who's coming is here. This lady here is the first county executive for the county of Erie. And she's written a book. She started talking about it in May, and we just ran out of time. She's going to finish her talk today. But her history is very enlightening. I had not quite realized this. I had some idea how historic this was from the story about Oliver Hazard Perry, but I'm going to let Judy Lynch take over.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, it is a tremendous pleasure for me to be back here at Lawrence Park Historical Society. I love being here with your company and having your company and knowing that you are all interested in history, as I am. I have my degrees in history and political science, and I walked around the room, and quite honestly, just by walking and reading, I learned some things that I did not know before. So thank you very much for your the honor of being here, for your invitation. And remember that I was here just some months ago, and so essentially what Jim had explained to me is what I'm supposed to do is to finish, because I didn't finish. So I did something wrong right away.
No, you didn't.
Well, I kind of did, okay?
And we're honored to have
As I
you.
looked at the PowerPoint, I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe I should make a point of this, maybe I should make a point of that. So what I'm going to do is go through this very quickly, very fast. And I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you would have. So with that, please let me direct you to this slide. To me, this is very important. Not so much for you or Lawrence Park, but for the entire community. Because your 100th celebration will be in 2026. And that is 100 years that you have been Erie County's only first-class township. We have no other first-class township. Lawrence Park is it. You're at the top, at the top.
First
Now,
class.
you will see it says 100, and the true medallion would have something else in the center rather than the figure 100. It would have what? The Lawrence, right? Because you have a picture of it over here someplace, yes. So this would be the Lawrence here. Is usually that's the medallion. But for whatever reason, they have placed something that they think is more central. The fact that we have had Lawrence Park Township for 100 years as our only first-class township. And 2026, we are all celebrating. We are all celebrating, okay? So this particular presentation attempts, even though it's about Erie County, okay, it attempts to underline some of the activities that were very consequential for Lawrence Park. So I'd like to go to the next slide. The next slide, I'm going to hold up, I think you can hear me, can't you? Mm-hmm. Hold up this book. This is a book I just finished, and the Jefferson has published it. They changed the title, I don't know why, okay? But it is a history of 4 counties. 4 counties, so you have Erie, Warren, Crawford, and Venango counties. Now there is a reason why the 4 counties are featured collectively together. And the reason is their history has been intermingled. They have impacted each other in a sense. They have caused growth and disaster and other things. So that these 4 counties collectively can be looked at as a single economic area. And so this is the history of that area from the 1800 all the way up to the current day. Okay? So I am leaving this with Jim, and it will be forever kept for anybody who would like to use it. Okay? Now, the next slide tells you something about why I did this. So if you read through this, and you look at these dates, what you see, these are the major history books about Erie County. Largely about Erie County, not about Crawford or Warren or Venango, but largely about Erie County, okay? And they start there. You can see 1798, 1799, go to 1945. This recent history of northwestern Pennsylvania is the last one. It's the last one of the major histories of northwestern Pennsylvania since 45, and 45 is a long time ago. It may not seem that long, but 45. And since then, there has been no major history of the area. And so what I have tried to do is to put into this book what would another historian, or what would historically be important for people to know about the area that was not mentioned or did not really get the type of investigation and history that it really needed to be. So that's the reason America's Early Frontier is what the title of this book is. However, that was not my title, okay? I said our corner of the world, our corner of the world. And so as you can see, it is a corner of the world. It has its own economic history, a very profound and very identifiable history. And so that is what this book is about. Now, if we just go to the next slide. Okay, now, this is why. This is why, and all of you, I'm preaching to the choir, right? Preaching to the choir because you know the importance of history, right? What can the study of the history teach us about growth and the economy in Lawrence Park? And so that's what I focused on in this presentation. I have used the history of northwestern Pennsylvania in order to underline some of the activities that bring us an understanding of how they impact today and also in the future. So if we could go just to the next slide. Okay, now I have used this kind of arrow to indicate a significant thrust. It's a thrust, okay? The need of human society for salt. And so what I'm trying to bring to the fore is the fact that human needs often tend to direct history. We have a need for food, we have a need for salt, we have a need for land, we have a need for housing. Our needs very often propel us in a certain direction. And so it becomes the history of the area. And so this is about Salina. And you know the story. I know you're all historians. And you know that Salina, New York was the deposit. It was where salt was found for the whole Great Lake area. As people were moving into northwestern Pennsylvania, into Ohio and other places, they had to have salt because salt was an ingredient necessary for life. Where did they find deposits of salt? Was in Salina, New York. In Salina, New York. And that also brought opportunity. So opportunity is something that comes because people have a need for a certain item, because of an event that has happened or something like that. In this case, salt in Salina had to be brought to areas throughout Pennsylvania. And how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, you get the salt on the ships, and you bring the ships into the Great Lakes area, okay? So Salina, Ohio or Salina, New York, excuse me, Salina, New York, and the salt trade became the first economic driver. It was a proponent for change in northwestern Pennsylvania. And this shows you, this is the taxes that people paid on the salt. They went to Salina, they loaded their ships with the salt. They brought it into the Erie area, they sold the salt. They also transported it down through the road to LaBeouf, what we call Waterford, and so the salt was taken to Pittsburgh and to areas in the south. And it became an incredible economic impetus. It is the way in which individuals were able to aggregate their wealth. And please look, this is the taxes that they paid. Unbelievable for that period of time. 1820, the taxes they paid on the salt that they brought in, okay, into the bayfront, into the Erie Harbor. And this is the salt trade in terms of barrels. And you can see, look at the number of barrels, all right? So it wasn't just salt that they needed, it was ships that they needed. So people began to, the shipbuilding industry began. And it was also the barrel industry. People began to build the barrels necessary in order for the salt to be contained so they could put it on the ships or they could take it down through the pathway to Waterford. Okay? So this is important. The need of human society for certain ingredients and the contours of the geographic area really create the economy. They help to produce an economy. They create wealth. They create opportunity. So we'll go to the next one. And this is just something to show you that here is Lawrence Park. And this is one of, I appreciate this and I hope you do too, and I know you do. Maybe you have a greater fervor than what I do. Lawrence Park has location, location, location. It is positioned right on the East Bayfront. Here it is, Lawrence Park. And here is the East Bayfront. And this is where the ships came in from Salina. This is where, and so Lawrence Park was always in a kind of a way attached to the trade that was going on along the bayfront, and eventually would go down into Waterford, right straight down, right straight down, right straight down. Okay, so we're going to go quickly, and so the next one, I'm not going to talk anything about this. This is, of course, Daniel Dobbins, and again, the East Bayfront. And it's also location, the importance of location. Hey, Lawrence Park has been positioned in the world in a very significant and opportunistic way. It has advantages that other communities don't have because they're inland, they're not close to the water, they're not close to trade, okay? And so this is what I'm trying to bring to your attention, is the importance of location and the importance of Lawrence Park and being on that locational route that brought goods into the area and distributed them. Usually it could go east or west, it could go south, and south was very often the way in which goods traveled, okay? Now, the next slide, I'm going fast, I'm going very fast, okay? The next slide just brings to your attention barrels. Remember, I mentioned barrels? So who's going to make them? And where do you get the wood? And what a blessing. Think of the blessing. Because if you look at Erie County, if you look at Warren, if you look, I mean, wood, forests all over the place. we became the barrel-making capital of the world, really. Okay? So this is something that's really important, the making of barrels. Now, those are iron tools. Iron. Where do you find iron? Okay, it's 1803. It's 1815. You just come in. And you need an implement, maybe to make something or to carve something or to do something. Where are you going to find iron? It's there right now. It's for your taking right now. Along the lake shore, there is a deposit of what they call bog iron. And the settlers that were coming in 1800, they knew where to look. They knew how to find it. And so the iron was available, and these were the early tools that the settlers used in order to secure their livelihood and to make sure that they flourished and didn't die. Okay, going on to the next one. Now, this again is about location. Location, location, location. As the population grew, demand for goods and raw materials also grew. Wow. Now, can I deviate? I want to deviate because I want to put in to my lecture the problems that we have currently. Is our population expanding? No. No. It is for one of the first times in the history of the United States, decreasing. The number of children being born are fewer. Most of the population now is aging over 50 years old. Okay? So very different. But here, as you can see, the population grew and the demand grew because with more people, there was a greater demand for products. We have to survive, right? And so therefore, there was a need to manufacture them. So we go down to the next slide, and this says, know the transportation network make the difference. Transportation. Now think of the early days, I'm saying 1900s, not true early days, 1800s sort, but with the trolley, okay, and your connections on the East Bayfront, and connection to the city of Erie, yes, okay, but also to Cleveland. Also, there were connections to the east, to Buffalo. So location was extraordinarily important. To receive and move raw materials. And of course, this is the train. These are the railroad tracks. This is how so much of the products were brought into northwestern Pennsylvania. How many of you can remember this? You can remember it? I can remember it. Not there now, okay? But it certainly was a landmark. It was certainly something that when you went down to the Bayfront, it caught your eye, okay? All right, so if we just go to the next one. Now, this is so important. It's important for us today. It's important for me because I'm a person that doesn't use a cell phone. I use it, I answer it, I do, but a little bit. I'm not like this, you know. But new technology, it is so important for us to maintain an understanding and capability and a way in which we understand the usefulness of new technology. So be aware that new discoveries bring new opportunities. And so you all recognize this, okay? And this is 1859, Edwin Drake drilled the well, and we know that it was in Titusville, okay? And we know that it was the first well, it truly wasn't, okay? But we will say it was the first well that had ever been drilled, and out of that well came oil. Now, I'm going to ask you, what was the oil used for? You all know this because you're historians. What was it used for? the oil. Why did we want oil back in the 1859?
Because
when the first oil well.
the whales were getting harder to get.
You're right.
And
The whales,
lamp oil.
whales in the ocean had been hunted almost to extinction, and the blubber of the whale had been used for oil, and the oil was used to do what?
Heat.
That's right, to light the lamps. I don't see any oil lamps here, but I'm sure throughout Lawrence Park, there have to be some oil lamps. So kerosene was extraordinarily important. And so new discoveries bring new opportunities, right? Kerosene, the need for discovery that you could drill a well and oil can be produced. And then you could refine the oil and you could make it into kerosene. So what do? New opportunities. Well, refineries, right? And then how do you get the oil out of the ground? Well, Drake was lucky. It just came like that. But most oil had to be pumped. So who's going to make pumps? Erie made the pumps. They were all mostly made in Erie, okay? And who made the boilers? The boiler and pump country, it was in Erie. So location, opportunity, new discoveries, all of those things make a community and help to enlarge it and advance it, okay? So at least 22 oil refineries existed in Erie. Did you know that? No. You could walk through Erie and you could never get out of the sight of an oil refinery. This is what I find difficult to believe. This is truth, though, as far as I understand it. There were more oil refineries in Erie than in any other place in the world. Any other place in the world, more oil refineries. And the reason is, it was the largest city, the closest to the Titusville area. And this is where they brought the oil. And they brought the oil in wagons initially. Giddy up.
Barrels again.
Bring the oil in the barrel, okay? But then what they did is, of course, trains became the method of hauling. And so trains would be bringing the oil to the city of Erie. Now, Erie became the world's capital for producing steam boilers, pumps, and iron products, as well as refineries. Now, I'd like to just go to the next one. Okay, now, remember, this is what I say, that this is the importance, this is the takeaway. Know the importance of people with skills. Okay? So remember, this is the 1800s, the last part of the 1800s. We need people with skills. Hey, do you learn that in school? Well, you don't go to school. Well, maybe you go to school, but what do you learn in school? Well, you don't learn that in school, right? So where do you get these skills? Okay? So this is Harvey Ely, and this was one of the first refineries from oil. It was built in 1860. It was located on French Street and near 2nd Street. Ely came to Erie with Adam Hamburger. Okay, I'm going to stop and just tell you a story, okay? Because if my children were here, they'd laugh and laugh and laugh. Okay, so if you go to the McDonald's, which is on, it's right by the peninsula, it's on Peninsula Road, right? Okay, you go to that McDonald's, and of course hamburgers are a big thing here at McDonald's, right? Right across the street is a cemetery, and right in the cemetery is the hamburger monument. Okay, so.
Oh my.
I don't know.
That's
interesting.
All right. So at any rate, right, this is about Adam Hamburger. He was a German immigrant. Now, I don't care what party you belong to or anything about your political affiliations or anything like that. I do think that we need to honor what immigrants brought to this country because they brought skills that were not available. And so this Eli Hamburger, he was an immigrant. He had a background in chemistry, and he specifically in building refineries, and his expertise was extremely valuable because the refining process was closely regarded, it was closely held, it was a secret. I'm head of a refinery. I'm not going to tell you how I do it because then you'll get into business and you will be a challenger, right? So it is a secret. So this is, of course, one of the biggest histories of Erie County, Miller, okay? And in his history of Erie County, he notes from the 17th Street down to 14th Street, the refineries stood as thickly as space would permit. That's how many refineries there finally were. Refinery after refinery after refinery after refinery. And it became impossible to list the names of all those that were engaged in the refining of petroleum. So the opportunity, just think of the opportunity to own a refinery and to build it, and the opportunity to work in the refinery, and the opportunity to buy your kerosene directly from the pharmacy, or maybe the opportunity to sell your oil to the refinery. So this is a very significant, important to the economic development of the area. It says, know the importance of people with skills. Take advantage of opportunities. If there's an opportunity that comes your way to give you, right? Take it. Well, maybe not all the time, but take it. Okay, just go to the next one. Okay. Now, you have to know something. So, mankind, you and me, okay, not a totally nice species, right? We get into competition. I don't want, I'll do this, I don't want, and shove you away, and this is mine, right? Okay, now what we are talking about is John D. Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller. Do you remember John D. Rockefeller from Cleveland, right? But he was all over. He was in Titusville. He was all over. And he talked to the people who were the producers of the oil. And he said, I'll buy your oil. He said, oh, okay. Okay, so he bought their oil. And he began to buy your oil, and he just went, okay? And then he said, okay. He went to the train, the companies, the locomotive companies, and he said, oh, give me a contract to move this oil. I want an advantage. Don't give that to the other person. I want an advantage. I'm John D. Rockefeller. Give me the lowest possible price. And he got a contract with the railroads to deliver oil, okay, to the refineries. Well, the refineries were in Erie, right?
For a while.
Okay. However, what John D. Rockefeller did was he bypassed Erie. And where did he establish the largest refinery? The largest refineries in the world. Where did he establish them? Oh, yes, you know, because when you go there, you see the signs, you see the evidence. In Cleveland. Okay? He had the contract with the railroads. And people were saying, oh, what are we going to do? Erie's refineries are going to go broke. What are we going to do? And they said, so somebody comes along. I have a a solution. I have a solution. We will build a pipeline from the oil fields, and it's going to pump all the oil right to your refinery, and your refinery, and forget John D. Rockefeller. So what did the people in refining in Erie say? They laughed. Pipeline. Who would ever think of doing that? And then what happened? All the refineries closed. And Erie no longer had the clout, had the collective kind of composition and ownership of the refineries. It all bypassed Erie and went right to Cleveland. Okay, John D. Rockefeller. So let me ask you this, okay? Who was it that wrote a book about John D. Rockefeller? And when it was published, it created a thunderstorm, actually.
Ida
Tarbell, that's right. She was the one that brought John D. Rockefeller down in the ground, okay? Her book on Standard Oil was an anathema. People began to understand the monopolistic characteristics that he employed and all of the devastating consequences of those. People lost their ownership of the oil. They lost all of their investments. They were became poverty in poverty. So there was tremendous repercussion. So what happened was, after the publishing of the book, Standard Oil, what commission was established, which is now under discussion about being eliminated?
Public utility?
FTC, the Fair Trade Commission. Okay? And the Fair Trade Commission was not just to bring John D. Rockefeller down, but it was to bring all the oligarchs and say, okay. And what they did was they broke up Standard Oil into a multitude of smaller companies, like 36 companies, and made them to compete against each other and create a field in which there were ability of others, not just the Rockefellers, but others, to get into the economic welfare. Okay, so we're going to go on. I don't know whether in the last time I was here, talked about Talon. I think I might have.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so let me just say this about Talon, okay? And again, okay, this is about Talon. And this is kind of the history of how the zipper came to Meadville, right? And one of the things about the zipper, I don't have a zipper. I'm sure, you have a zipper someplace, okay? And if you have older clothes, you sometimes have trouble with the zipper. So a zipper can be problematic too, okay? But it's a tremendous engineering feat to have developed the zipper. It's unbelievable that you can put all of these prongs together on a tape and then bring them up with a little lever, right? So Talon was established where?
Meadville.
Where was the heart? Where was the center of the Talon?
Meadville.
Pardon? Not in Erie.
Meadville.
Meadville. It was in Meadville. And it was largely because some of the people in Meadville were out looking. They were looking for advances, economic opportunities. And so this was Mr. Walker from Meadville who came into contact. And so eventually it came to Meadville, Pennsylvania, okay? And the zipper was a phenomenal success. Phenomenal success in Meadville. Okay? Now, if you had to name a place in the United States where the Depression never came, what depression? Well, we don't have a depression here. Okay? We don't have people in the streets. We don't have people looking for jobs. Everybody has a job if they want one. Okay? This is Meadville, isn't it? It's the land of opportunity. Okay? Right? And that was Talon Zipper. Talon Zipper provided a bountiful economic opportunity, and people were employed. Now, there's something else I want, and you know this anyhow. Okay, think. Now you're all operators, or you're at the top of Talon Zipper, right? And you have all these departments. You're making a zipper for this and zipper for that, and how do you do this and all of that. So you're in charge, right? Okay. Now, one of the things you do is say the most important thing that we can do is to make sure the zipper works, right? And in order to make sure that it works, going up and down, you've got to have a tool and die component to your industry, one in which the highest skills are taught. And that was Meadville. Talon Zipper is no longer in Meadville. But what other name do they give to Meadville?
Channel Lock.
The tool and die capital of the world. Okay? Now, tool and die industries in Meadville are still unbelievably in the Meadville area, Crawford County, but also in the Erie area, because we're not that far, okay? And tool and die companies were just a very significant, very significant part of the industry of the area. Okay, what's a die? What's a die? What's a die? I know what a tool is. It's a hammer, or I know what a tool is. I can see a tool. Okay, but what's a die?
It is
Die?
a tool with the face, the face of which is the part that you want to make, and you smash it down on a piece of steel.
Okay, yes, you can do that. Okay, but something else. Something else. Oh, you got it. You know it.
Cut threads.
A die today is made out of plastic. It is a form. So what do you want to make? A plastic toy, a little car, a little car. Well, you've got a little casing, and you pour the plastic in, and it forms the car. And then once it's dry, and you just dump it out. It's the car, right?
It's like a mold.
Okay.
Like a mold.
Tool.
Yeah.
Yes,
Die
exactly.
cast.
Now think of that. What other industry came? What other industry opportunity it came? What was it?
Mark's Toys, it's in your cheat sheet.
Mark's Toys. That's exactly it. But it was the plastic industry.
Oh, yes.
The plastic industry. Now, I hate to admit this, but I spend, old politicians never die, they just melt away. Okay, well, what I do, I've got a dog, so I walk the dog all the time. So every place I go, I'm picking up plastic. And you know what plastic is. Bad for you, because plastic will go, and people run over it with the lawnmowers, they don't care. Okay, and then it goes right into the water stream, and it goes into the water system. And guess what? Go to the doctor, go have your brain scan, have your blood looked at. You're full of plastic. You're a plastic walker. Right. Okay? So plastic can become a pretty horrible ingredient. However, this was an opportunity. And what became the plastic capital was Erie, actually. Okay, now where are we? Okay,
I got it up there for you, Mark.
Okay, so we have gone past. Now, take advantage of a craze. This is on page 9. I hate to tell you this, but this is a craze. Everybody has their phone, okay? Okay, but before the phones, one of the crazes that came at the beginning of the 20th century, okay, at the beginning of the 20th century, was a bicycle. The bicycle. Now, why was the bicycle so incredibly economically important and also sociologically important?
Well, it increased
Economically
the
important because everybody wanted a bicycle.
but it increased your mobility.
Mobility, freedom, freedom.
I think
to
what it did for
move,
teenagers,
right? Get
my
on my
goodness.
bicycle and go here, get on my bicycle and go there. Okay, now, some of the users of bicycles, the biggest users of bicycle were women. Now, why would women? You know, what did they see in a bicycle?
They weren't allowed to drive.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to
They weren't allowed
drive.
to drive a car, so they took a bike.
Okay, guess what?
Oh, they had.
Okay,
Yeah,
right? They no longer
had to wear
wore the
skirts.
skirts. They wore bloomers. Okay, there was a whole sociological change in the makeup and the dress of women that bicycles brought. And one of the largest bicycle companies in the world was black. Do you see that? That's on page 9. On page 9. And it talks about black bicycle manufacturing company. And then you begin to take a look at the assembly line process. No. Okay, it wasn't introduced, making automobiles. It wasn't Ford, okay? It was black bicycle company that introduced the assembly line process. Well, line up, and you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that, and pretty soon we have a product. And the assembly line process was very, it was economical, and it was structurally very sound, and it produced rapidly products that you wanted to get out on the market. Okay, now we're going to the next page, which would be page 10. And so one thing leads to another. One thing leads to another. The bicycle, well, what does it look like? Half of a car. Looks like, and sometimes with these motorcycles, these great big, you can hardly tell them from cars, okay? But if you can make a bicycle, it's just a step forward to making the car. And so I really want to bring to your attention Henry Hagenlocker. And it's on the bottom of page 10. And he was from Erie. He was a resident of Erie. And he made a bicycle. But it wasn't a bicycle, it was a car. Okay? And it was called the Hagenlocker. And so they would go, throughout the streets of Erie, hi, and everybody go, wow, right? Now this is before Ford, but still somehow Erie missed the show. Okay, so one of the things is there's always a second chance. There's always a second chance in the economic kind of milieu. And the second chance was, hey, cars are here to stay. Automobiles and trucks and so forth, they're here to stay. But what else do we need? Okay, they need parts. Tool and die, they need parts. And how do you get the parts? Many of the parts of the automobile were made here in this area, throughout this area. And they would ship them to Michigan, or they'd ship them to other parts of Ohio, where actually cars were put together. Now, let's go to the next slide because I think this is important. You tell me when you want me to stop, and I'll stop. Okay? So let's just do the next slide. Okay. This name, Hugh Lord. And all of you remember Lord's Manufacturing. Not there anymore. Not there anymore. Okay? Hugh Lord was the founder, and he was the CEO of Lord's. Okay? Now, why did he, what did Lord's produce? They produced components, but they had a special apparatus, a special device that allowed them to quiet the motors that were being used in cars and other vehicles, okay? And where did he come up with that idea? He was sitting on his front porch. And he said, I can't stand these cars. Can't stand them. They make too much noise. They rattle, rattle, rattle all over the place. So we got to do something better. So he went to his basement, began to tinker. And so eventually he came up with the fact that if you insert rubber, that rubber is going to be used, can be used as a dulling impact on the vibrations created by motors. And this is what Hugh Lord did, okay? Now, they were used in automobiles, all sorts of vehicles, but they were also used in airplanes, okay? Now tell me, what happened in World War II? What, anybody know the story of Lord's in World War II? Okay. Okay. Here's Hugh Lord. He's sitting. Okay. He's sitting at his desk. He's a CEO, right? So this will look familiar, but it's not ice. Okay. Okay. In come the government. They picked him up. They take him bodily to the, well, I was going to say dumping yard, but it wasn't. It was the place where they parking cars, right? So they deposit Hugh Lord right there, and the federal government took over Lord's. This is during World War II, and it's because what they were producing was so vital for airplanes and for the war process that they really felt that he was not being compliant enough, that he was not being a patriot enough. So that's what happened to Lord's. Okay, now we're on this.
Could we skip to page like 14?
Page-
Judy?
Pardon?
Could you skip to page 14?
Okay, yes ma'am, I'll skip to 14.
I looked ahead, I'm sorry, I looked ahead of her schedule and thought we might be interested in page 14 on.
Okay, let's go to 14. You know the story of Hugh Lord now, right? Okay, and Lord's itself. And of course, after the war, the plant was restored, okay? But it is interesting when you study history, the power that the federal government exercised during World War II. I mean, when I read it, I am just amazed. And of course, we see the ICE agents now going through the United States. So this is it. So I've been directed to go to 14th, and this is General Electric. So now we are in Lawrence Parks. This is your history. This is, and you know this story, because I was reading it all at the time as I was wandering around. And you know that at this time, there was a fellow by the name of Pratt who worked for the Schenectady plant in General Electric. And he was a friend of Matthew Griswold Jr.'s. They had gone to Yale together. They were fraternity brothers. You know that story, right? And you know how Matthew Griswold greeted Platt as he came in. Said, "Oh, what brings you here?" And he said, well, we're looking for a new site for a plant for General Electric. And he said, but I wanted to see you. I haven't seen you. It's just nice to get together. And what did Matthew Griswold say? Got the perfect place for you. Got the perfect place for you. Let me show you. It has everything that anybody could want. Location, 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 right? It has all of the access to communication, physical communication, and other forms of communication. This is just the place for General Electric. And so this is, the next slide is Francis Cole Pratt and Matthew Griswold.
That?
Okay, that tells the story, and you all know that story very well. And so, what I want you to do is see the next slide. This is so important. This is so important. It's so important for us, for all of us, to believe and to appreciate and to understand. Location, location, location. And this area, Lawrence Park, is located at the edge of Lake Erie. It's located close to the bayfront, located a major traffic route, located close to major population areas. There couldn't be a better location for a large plant than Lawrence Park. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And so this tells us a little bit about the founding by General Electric of this site here. And you know, at the time, Lawrence Park was part of Mill Creek. But eventually it became its own municipality and it became Erie County. And that was in 1926, it became Erie County's only Class 1 township. So, okay. So you know something, of course, about the importance of the Garden City and having the company involved in how its workers were living and what their kind of, the schools and what their location looked like came directly from Britain, because Britain was already experimenting with this concept of Garden City. Okay, and we'll go to the next, and we see the site of the Garden City. That's on page 17. Okay, and then if you look at the next slide, this of course is the Garden City. These are the houses, that GE built for its workers, making sure that the workers had a stability within their domestic life that would transfer into their working life. Okay, and then if we look at the next slide, we can say, hooray, 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 right? Because this is made in Erie County. And unbelievable. This story is truly unbelievable. A lot of politics involved, okay? Because Mill Creek didn't want it. A lot of people were trying to push it under and not have it occur. But because of Griswold and because the community pulled together, because of the newspaper, some other political players, it occurred and GE came to Erie. Okay? So now we go to page 16.
16?
17.
And that tells about the process that GE used to gather together everything it needed in order to build the plant here in Lawrence Park. By 1926, GE had purchased much of the property, which is part of the GE compound. Okay? Now, we go to the next slide. And the next slide is about the Garden City. That's page 16. And 17,
That's 17.
okay, 17, GE produces. And then we have on page 18, some of the products that were produced with such care and ingenuity. They were the appliances, they were tanks and howitzers produced for the war, and primarily GE locomotives. Now, we know that nothing ever stays the same, right? Unfortunately, I don't like change myself. I have real problems dealing with change. I don't know how you feel about it. But Lawrence Park is certainly dealing with change. And as we know, GE has left. And GE has all sorts of, ways in which they deal with their issues, which you wonder, who is it that's making these decisions and what are they thinking? It doesn't make any sense. But at any rate, it was sold to Web and became Wabtec. So Wabtec takes over GE. And Wabtec, of course, is Westinghouse. Westinghouse, based in Pittsburgh, is the one that finally takes over General Electric. So Wabtec or Westinghouse saw this as an opportunity, and they thought that they could really make a product that was going to be much more desirable than the locomotives that had been made under GE. And so Erie and Wabtec are building those locomotives to meet the changing needs. And as we know, what's creeping up on all of us is climate change, and we need to get rid of gas-fired and anything that uses oil or anything of that nature, and to turn to electricity. And so that it's in fact what Wabtec is doing. So if we go to the next page, 19, this is where we are. Now, this is the picture in Westinghouse Advanced Technology Lab. This is what you want. This is what we want. This is what we want for all of the area. And that is, we have to keep up with change. We have to be at the starting gate. Technology is not standing still. We cannot stand still. We must be just right at the head. We must be pushing the technology. So this is Wabtec's future. Advanced technology. We don't know what the trains of the future will be, but it's interesting. Trains came along in the 1800s, but we have had trains since then. But they have changed in their technology, certainly in a lot of other dimensions. And so that change is going to continue. And this is where they'll experiment and where they will develop new ways in which to move products, because you're going to still have to move products throughout the United States. Okay? So then for the last one, this is the last. Okay, this is the last slide. And this is what that looks like. Here's Lawrence Park. It's 1926. These are the population figures for Lawrence Park. Please note that the population is decreasing. That's true throughout the United States. This is pretty good. It's not so bad. Okay, could be worse. But it doesn't mean that we have to say, oh, well, good. We could not worry about it. We have to be concerned. We have to do everything we can in order to make Wabtec successful, in order to push forward and to increase the number of jobs and to keep employment here. So let's go to the next slide. Now this slide goes back to actually 2023, and this is about the strike. And if you read it, this announcement was in the newspaper, and it announces the fact that the strike is over. It's over, guys. The strike is over. The union has agreed to the contract. Everybody come back to work, okay? This contract represents a substantial improvement. We like it. We think it's good. We're all coming back to work, okay? So if we go strike no more. UE local members approve WebTech's proposal. The agreement calls for annual raises. WebTech released their statement after voting. WebTech is pleased. The UE members ratified the collective bargaining. Now, I know how vicious the strikes in at GE were, and this one was also the one at WebTech. But I don't know how you feel about this, but this is my opinion. We have to get along. We have to cooperate. We don't get everything we want. We get some things. We have to do some bargaining. We have to lose to some extent, but we have to gain. And so essentially that's what it should be teaching us, this agreement, okay? So if we could go to the next one, and this is the end. Push forward. Push forward. Push forward. Keep on the very tip of the change, of the technological change. Believe in the future of Lawrence Park, the Erie area, and its people. And if you look up here, Lawrence Park's population is relatively stable. The park's location advantages still exist. There are many partners, the federal, state, and county governments, as well as nonprofits, who are ready to help. They are out there ready to help, so that if help is needed, there should be a push, there should be a unit, there should be a drive to get assistance one way or another, from the federal, or from the state, or from the local county, or from other nonprofits, to keep us going, to keep us improving. But we have to stay current with the technology and improve with the technology. And guess what? I said you can, but we can. We can. We can. We can do it because we have no alternative. We have to. We have to. Okay?
We have to
That's
go
it.
to, we have to run to meet the future.
Pardon?
We have to run to meet the future.
Yep. So, thank you. very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
We have a couple of minutes for any questions, and then we're going to take a break because it's already almost 10 after 8.